कलकत्ता हाई कोर्ट ने जो जजमेंट दिया है, सच में बंगाल के इतिहास में एक ऐतिहासिक जजमेंट माना जाए। कानून व्यवस्था चरमरा गया है, पूरा देश सन्न हो गया है इस प्रकार घटना सुन करके, लेकिन सरकार मानने के लिए तैयार नहीं है।
I am very unhappy with the judgment. I am displeased with the High Court judgment. But that doesn't mean that we accept that there was postponed violence. Always say that there may have been violence between 2nd May and 5th May, till the Chief Minister took her oath.
You're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. The weeks following the Bengal election results in May saw carnage across the state as alleged revenge killings, rape and arson gripped Bengal after Mamata Banerjee's return to power for a third term. Beyond the political war, an NHRC team submitted a report on the post-poll violence, asserting that the situation in the state was a manifestation of the law of the ruler instead of the rule of law, recommending a CBI probe. There were reportedly 15,000 incidents of violence and 25 deaths across 16 districts of the state. 7,000 women suffered atrocities in the days after the elections. The state government dismissed the report, calling it exaggerated and politically motivated, but the war continued in the court. Today, a 5-judge bench of the Calcutta High Court delivered a huge blow to the Mamata Banerjee government, ordering a court-monitored CBI and SIT probe into the post-poll violence. The court has observed that no FIR has been registered in 60% of the cases. There has been a lukewarm response from the state to registering FIRs, adding that the victims have no faith in the government machinery. The CBI will probe cases of murder and crimes against women, while all other cases will be investigated by the SIT, which will be run by 3 senior state police officers. The court has mandated that the status reports be filed in 6 weeks. It has also directed the state government to immediately pay compensation to the victims through direct bank transfers, that is the DBTs. The TMC government refuses to accept there was violence after Mamata Banerjee took office. The state government will study the order and is likely to approach the Supreme Court. Months after the elections, Bengal continues to be a battleground, but has the High Court order highlighted the failure of the state government to maintain law and order after the elections and zero faith in the government machinery to probe serious cases of murder and rape? Joining me on the show, Professor Om Prakash Mishra is a TMC spokesperson. We have Amit Malviya, BJP Bengal co-in-charge, Yashwardhan Azad, former IPS officer, Professor Dinesh Varshney is a CPI leader. Professor Mishra, evasive, lukewarm response, calculated silence, making arguments and frustration after caught on the wrong foot, in denial mode, and blowing hot and cold. These are the terms used in the Calcutta High Court's damning judgment to describe the conduct of your government regarding the post-poll violence. Can you continue to call it a political conspiracy even today?
Well, it is a political conspiracy that has also been brought out by the judgment. But then what you read is correct. Judgment has come out today, and you may very well say that this judgment questions the sincerity of the state government. I'm not disputing that. What I'm going to tell you is this, that this 124 pages judgment has also reached me in the last couple of hours. I'm yet to finish studying it. But what I can say that this judgment broadly is against the state government's position.
Yes.
However, I have spoken to my party colleagues and other leaders, and we stand by our position that much of the violence that was reported actually were conducted before the chief minister and the council of ministers took oath. And Election Commission's responsibility in this regard cannot also be brushed aside.
Okay.
Secondly, I would say that,
Okay,
well,
but Professor Mishra, at least now the state government is accepting that some things went wrong. Will you say
it's
that?
not that way. It's not that way. The point is that the judgment has also pointed out that the inclusion of some of the members in the NHRC that seem to be biased. It has also pointed out that some of the observations that they made and some of the sentences framework of the report that they submitted, that was actually uncalled for.
Okay.
This has also been said.
Okay.
And thirdly,
let me get a response from Mr. Malviya now. Mr. Malviya, what Professor Mishra is saying is what most of the TMC leaders have been saying, that the incidents of violence actually took place between 2nd and 5th of May, that period in which Mamata Banerjee had won the elections, the date of judgment, and before the swearing in. So in that period, it is the Election Commission which has to be held accountable rather than the Bengal government.
Well, Maria, what is happening in Afghanistan is also happening in Bengal. For the first time, you have a regime that is using political power and rape as a tool for furthering its politics, and it's happening right here in Bengal. And we, the people of India, the national media, required a court case and a verdict to take note of it. The second point on law and what TMC is arguing, saying the violence happened in the intervening period, they perhaps don't know or are pretending not to know, but Mamata Banerjee was the caretaker chief minister, and it is her sole responsibility to manage law and order as the home minister of the state as well. That is beyond doubt and dispute. If they don't understand law, I can help them hire a good lawyer to interpret it for them. But that is not what we are here to debate. We are here to talk about the worst kind of post-poll violence that Bengal has seen as an independent India. Something like this was perhaps seen during the Direct Action Day on 16th of August 1946. And now we are seeing a repeat of that again in Bengal. Several thousand women have been raped, violated. TMC workers have gone berserk. They know that they enjoy the immunity and protection from the state administration, the police, and the civil administration there. People's houses have been destroyed. They have been forced to flee the state in lakhs. This is not something that the BJP alone is saying. These are borne out by media reports in local media,
Professor Mishra,
sporadic instances.
A response to this charge of Amit Malviya. No, listen, let me ask my question. Let me ask my question. You haven't heard my question. You have a woman chief minister who has let down the women of the state.
All right. In fact, we are very proud of our chief minister. In fact, entire country is proud of Mamata Banerjee. Secondly, I just heard some very laughable proposition that thousands of women have been raped and so on, and nothing of this sort is actually even in the so-called report of the committee. And thirdly, this is a judgment to have an inquiry by the CBI and an SIT. That does not mean that all these allegations have actually now been proved to be correct.
Yes.
And moreover, this is a judgment which actually,
so then in that case, you should be welcoming the state judgment of the court rather than saying that you are disappointed and displeased. No. There is something deeply problematic in your statements now. Mr. Azad, shouldn't the state government respect the judgment and let the law take its course in an effort to show that the government has nothing to hide?
Go ahead. You did not let me finish my sentence. That is not fair.
Yes, okay. Professor, Mr. Azad, please.
I think there is no political wrangling called for in the judgment by the High Court. I think High Court's judgment is absolutely clear, and it shows that there are disturbing signs for policing in democracy. What has happened in West Bengal needed to be probed very, very early. And let me tell you, Maria, it doesn't require either the overseering by the CEC or by the state government. If there is a charge of rape or murder a police station is supposed to register it, which was not done in West Bengal.
Yes.
So hiding behind a legal curtain is not absolutely correct. The other thing which I want to say is that the court has been very, very judicious in its judgment and has said that there will be a court-monitored CBI probe, which is excellent because CBI would take out actually the real facts from the complaints and register cases where they are supposed to be done. But in the end, let me also tell you that this is extremely disturbing because what happened after the Home Ministry probe, and when Home Ministry had leveled, said that these charges were there, and then the NHRC also leveled these charges, and the reports were asked for by the High Court. There is no case of not respecting the judgment. I think it's a very good judgment by the High Court, and it will be a lesson for all the states.
Mr. Azad, since you pointed at that point of the role of the cops, in this judgment, it's saying that the final report of the NHRC indicated that hardly 14% of the accused named in the FIRs lodged by the West Bengal police were arrested, and out of those arrested, 80% were released on bail. Effectively speaking, only 3% of the accused named are in jail. That is what the judgment is noting. So it is scathing in its criticism as far as the role of the cops are concerned, even while we raise questions on the political leadership.
I agree with you.
Well, this question.
But
Mr. Azad, yes.
I agree with you. But there is, of course, when you have such a sharp political divide on both sides, then perhaps some of the named people may have been named for political reasons, and therefore I don't blame the police for only arresting a few of them. But it is extremely important that the police should be fair in its judgment. And this is very clear that the police initially did not register the cases correctly as per the reports or as per the complaints which are received.
Dinesh Vashne, your quick response on this judgment. Of course, you are a player in Bengal, may not be as strong as you were a few years ago, but this culture of violence, why has it been normalized to such an extent that the party which is ruling the state dismisses it? The political opponent, clearly this time, which is the BJP, is scathing. They have found an opportunity, saying that they stand vindicated.
Look, Maria, the BJP and the TMC, both of them are the perpetrators of the violence. Both of them are the masters of violence. They pump the violence, then they say that we have not done it. And that have led the culture of Bengal into a violent elections. And the police is in the connivance with the state power, and left is the biggest sufferers. So we demand that not only the CBI and this thing, there should be an impartial inquiry under the court-monitored inquiry. Because we have a problem with the central investigating agencies also nowadays. So we have to look into these matters.
Okay, Mr. Malviya, you know, this point about that in the several cases in the past also that we have seen questions being raised about the misuse and abuse of the CBI. It's not really an agency anymore which really inspires the confidence amongst the public at large.
I'm not sure if the public at large is disenchanted with CBI, but perhaps some political parties might be. The truth of the fact is, Maria, that there is widespread violence and state-sponsored violence in West Bengal, and the High Court judgment today has ensured that CBI and a court-monitored SIT looks into all that has happened in the state. But let's go beyond what the judgment is. The larger question is that how could Mamata Banerjee, who is also the Home Minister of the state, not recognize the fact that women were gang raped by her cadres? We've had women come all the way to Supreme Court asking for justice. A 60-year-old woman was raped in front of a 6-year-old grandson. You have a Dalit woman, 17 years of age, dragged into the village and raped through the night. You had a BJP worker's wife tied to a tree and assaulted by TMC cadres in that area. And how come Mamata Banerjee does not even recognize it? There's something deeply problematic with the way Mamata Banerjee has gone about it. And the truth is there are shades of communal violence to what's happening in Bengal, because Mamata Banerjee relies on the minority vote bank completely, and most of the perpetrators in these cases happen to be those from the minority community.
But that has not been mentioned in the judgment.
Well, I'm the co-in-charge of the state, and I know the topography and the nature of crime in the state well, and you have to allow me to make my point. That is the fact. Today, Mamata Banerjee has succumbed to minority appeasement and she is allowing her cadres to run amok. And that is a fact. Every case has the TMC workers' involvement there. The police remains a blind, mute spectator. The civil administration has turned its eye on the other side. Doctors are being threatened, not to mention rape in such cases. Where the hell is Bengal going under Mamata Banerjee? That is the question we must be asking.
Okay. Professor Mishra, a strong charge coming your way from Bengal co-in charge of the BJP.
Please don't interrupt. Mr. Malviya perhaps does not know what the Madras High Court had to say about the CBI. He perhaps is forgetting what severe indictment of the central government is coming out from various courts of the country repeatedly, including from the Supreme Court. He perhaps has also forgotten very well that time and again allegations that the BJP had raised regarding West Bengal that has proved to be false, and in fact, it has been established by the court of law, including the High Court, both in respect of the Murshidabad case where a teacher was killed, and in so many different other cases. You talked about that what type of percentage of FIR has been registered. Well, that might be correct or may not be correct. I am not here, and in fact, you should also appreciate that the Calcutta High Court has asked for an inquiry, for an investigation.
No, these are parts of the Calcutta High Court judgment. It's not that I'm just saying it for the sake of it. I'm quoting from the judgment. The judgment also says that there is no confidence in the state government as well. It says proper steps have not been taken to investigate the heinous crime, which could inspire confidence in the law enforcing agencies. These are the words coming from the judgment.
You are also aware that in our country, people charged with the UAPA, the conviction rate is less than 2% as per Government of India itself. So therefore, you should not jump, or nobody should jump into conclusion. In fact, this is a very wrong approach to try to corner the state government, try to build up a narrative against the state government. And here a section of the media and the BJP, they are hand in glove. High Court has delivered a judgment. We are going to the Supreme Court.
At least today, you can very well go to the Supreme Court. That is a right that is reserved with you. You please go to the Supreme Court if that is what the state government says. But look at the words. The observations are scathing.
We are studying.
It is about people of the state saying they do not have confidence in the state government's machinery. Law enforcing agencies.
Did you discuss the Madras High Court?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
You did not do that.
Okay, don't ask me as to what are the subject of debates that I pick up, sir.
CBI has been actually called for the Saroda and Naroda.
Okay.
And
Mr. Azad.
Nothing has come out of that.
Mr. Azad.
For the last 7 years.
Okay.
So therefore, please kindly don't be selective. It is a very
okay, Mr. Azad, if this expectation is fulfilled, their faith in the rule of law and in the justice delivery system will be maintained and enhanced is what the bench is saying. It has said it may be the offences are grievous, serious and heinous. It may be as a result of post-poll violence. It may well be in the usual course of affairs. The fact remains that each of these offences need serious investigation. That means for a state government which was not even acknowledging that there has been post-poll violence, for them to now begin investigation is also getting that direction that they did mess up.
There is much to be desired on the part of the state government on the action it took after the post-poll violence. And as I've already said, that I really don't understand what kind of political argument can be made on behalf of the state government and what could be the legal reasons that they would approach the Supreme Court for. High Court's judgment is absolutely clear. When the percentage of the FIRs registered are really very, very low compared to the number of complaints.
3%.
And forget, I'm talking about the murder and rape. These are heinous crimes which should have been registered immediately. Now, one of the points which has been raised by some of the participants is the credibility of the CBI. I agree that CBI has been questioned, but for that matter, almost most of the government institutions have been questioned. But that doesn't mean that every action of that institution or the CBI is going to be colored politically. Come on, when it's a case of murder or rape, CBI will be doing an absolutely professional job. And let me tell you that in these kind of cases, CBI is the correct approach. And the other thing is, the caveat is there that is going to be a court-monitored CBI investigation. So all the fears which are being raised on the part of the participants about the CBI should be allayed by now, because it will be the court ultimately.
Yes, Professor Mishra, while you may be raising the questions about the CBI, the West Bengal government has also not covered itself in glory. They tried to block the NHRC exercise in the first place after the court ordered one on June 18th, and the states filed for a stay on that order. The court order dismissing the same, saying that the way the state was proceeding in the matter, which required immediate action, did not inspire confidence. My question is, if you have nothing to hide, then you should be first welcoming the court judgment that has come today and have not done what you did in the past in the context of NHRC.
First, Maria, we are not disputing what you have read from the verdict. But then this actually also, that verdict says that what apprehension we had has been actually validated by the High Court. The High Court judges have said very clearly that the inclusion of certain people in the NHRC committee actually is a ground for suspicion, and it should have been best avoided. Secondly, I would like to submit for your consideration that in most of the cases where the police had gone to inquire subsequent to the NHRC committee report being filed in the High Court, it has been found that actually there is no such complaint, or the such people are not there, or the addresses which have been given, they are not there. So therefore, let me request you, let this be inquired by the CBI if the state government is not challenging it or whatsoever. But I can also tell you that to paint West Bengal as an administration that is trying to protect rapists and so on, that is simply not correct. There are so many different examples where very recently, a few days back, some Trinamool Congress members, they have been held because of the violation that
Let me give the final words to Amit
committed
Malviya.
against you.
Go ahead, Mr. Malviya.
Finally, what should we give
Well,
to him?
Maria, not just the National Human Rights Commission, the Women Commission, the Commission for Child Rights Protection, the Commission for Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes, and even Minorities Commission has visited the state and has come out with an unequivocal report stating that there is widespread state-sponsored violence. There have been instances where TMC workers have asked women to be deposited to them overnight if they want protection. That is how bad the situation in Bengal is. People have had their skull broken open through a sledgehammer, and Mamata Banerjee, the Home Minister of the state, pretends that there is nothing happening. In fact, she is twiddling around in Delhi, trying to position herself as the possible prime ministerial face for 2024 without realizing that she is unable to manage the state. In fact, she's abetting rape, murder, and worst of the crimes back home. Is this the kind of chief minister, an unelected chief minister, Bengal wants? The answer is no. And the investigation that has been ordered by the Calcutta High Court will only put out facts, and Mamata Banerjee will have a lot to answer as the chief minister as well as the home minister of the state.
Okay, away from politics, Yashwardhan Azad, you heard the two politicians. The question is that there are several people who wanted perhaps an investigation of this nature, a CBI probe and an SIT probe, both monitored by the court. What does it actually mean then? Let's wrap it up for the viewers.
You know, Maria, I think the people of West Bengal deserve much better than the kind of policing and administration they got, especially with reference to the post-poll violence. And which brings me back to that basic question which I have been raising always on your platform, that unless the police in the states gets the requisite level of autonomy, it won't be able to act independently. It is always politically colored when incidents of this kind take place. And therefore, I'm extremely happy that the High Court has perceived this issue. And that is why the High Court has called for an investigation by the CBI. And the best part of this is that the judges are going to monitor the probe so that there is no scope of allegations being raised from both sides. It is against a clarion call again for policing in a democracy in the most fair and autonomous manner.
Clarion call in all possible ways to all the stakeholders here. Thank you so much for joining us, Yashwardhan Azad, Amit Malviya, Dinesh Vashne and Professor Mishra. Of course, the judgment is out. All of you can log on to news18.com and read that as well. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.